Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. We've been trapped for 3 days here in Figueira da Foz. Tomorrow, or possibly the day after tomorrow, looks like we finally might be able to start moving again. Because of the whole fishing net and orca situation here along the Portuguese coast, we can only really sail during the day. So we'll have a single one-night stop somewhere in between here and Lisbon. For a bunch of different reasons, I'm very excited to get to Lisbon. One of the big ones is the fact that there's a bunch of doohickeys waiting for us there. Doohickeys we'll need for our upcoming Atlantic crossing, like for instance our new wind vane. My name is Mess, this is my wife Ava. I've spent the last 5 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Warrior 38 named Athena. That was a DIY fun-packed adventure complete with a very extensive osmosis treatment, building a new rudder using vacuum infusion, rebuilding the entire deck, gutting and subsequently rebuilding most of the interior, painting the topsides, and a ton of other projects. The summer of 2021 we started cruising full time. Now we're finally ready to begin our adventure. For us to be allowed to leave Figueira da Foz, of course, they have to open up the entrance. And I checked the website here a couple of times every day, hoping for an improvement. But so far, the bar is still closed to vessels under 35 meters. We took a little walk out to the breakwater yesterday, and there were big breaking waves right at the entrance. So I can understand why we're not allowed to leave, but it would be really nice to get out of here. This is the swell forecast, and the swell is what's keeping us here. Now, right now it should be about 3.5 meters. It's gone down from 5 meters yesterday, and if we fast forward till tomorrow, as you can see, it should get a lot better. But the swell is only supposed to go down to about 1.9 meters tomorrow, which I don't think is low enough that they're going to open the bar back up. Looking at the day after, that would be Friday, they have it at 1.4 meters, which hopefully will be low enough. It's not that the marina here is bad or that the town is dangerous or anything like that. And it may very well just be because we haven't seen the light yet. But it does seem like there's not a whole lot to do or to check out in this town. When we find ourselves in a new place, we always do a little bit of research. We talk to some locals or do some searching online to see what's going on in that area. And so far, not a whole heck of a lot has popped up for this area, except maybe one thing, one salty thing. The taxi just dropped us off here at the Salt Museum, which we were hoping to check out. But it turns out it's closed today, so yeah, no salt museum. In a rare instance of super good luck, even though the museum here behind me is closed, we ran into Victor that showed us a little part of the museum, and we had a little talk about the salt production that happens here. He also gave us this little map here of the Salinas Road, which is a path that goes all the way around this area for salt production. In Denmark, there's also a tiny bit of salt production from seawater left, but it's done in a slightly different way than here, because here they rely on just the sun and wind.
There's usually a bunch of flamingos that live here, and I was really excited to see some because I've never seen any in the wild before, but unfortunately they've already flown south for the winter, except these two guys. I know what you guys are thinking. Really? Salt production? Is that cool? And you know what? I'm here to tell you that yes, it is cool, because salt production dates back here in Portugal from year 959, but unfortunately it died out for a long time because of the mass production of salt in big factories. But in the last 20 years or so, there's actually been an artisan salt renaissance here in Portugal. For centuries, salt was actually a hot commodity for Portuguese exploration. It wasn't just used to make things taste nice and salty. It was also great for food preservation for long distances, for, say, like crossing the Atlantic. By 1178, salt was Portugal's main export, and it was actually sought after all around the world. You know, they just wanted that Portuguese salt. During Roman times, salt was a rare commodity, and it was actually used for the soldiers' allowance each week, called a salarium. Salarium comes from the Latin word sal, which is salt, which eventually turned into salary, which is the same word we use today. But wait, there's more. Soldiers who were doing a good job were considered to be worth their salt. So cool. I love history. Right behind me are these long rectangular salt pans that have a layer of clay on them, and then they get filled with seawater. And once the salt has crystallized, the salt's collected using these long wooden rods called rotos, and then the salt is left to dry in the sun for about 5 or 6 days. I was so wrong about the flamingos. We just saw a huge flock of them fly across the salt pans, and now we're on the hunt to go find them. Wow, we can see them sticking their little necks in the water, feeding up ahead. I don't want to scare them away, but we found them. This is very exciting. I've never seen them in the wild. Definitely was not expecting to see them in Portugal, but apparently they like the salt pans because there's low water and they can eat the little shrimpies in them.
The road of the Salinas is about 5 kilometers or roughly 3 miles long, and we have made it all the way around.
Good morning, guys. It is about 7 o'clock in the morning, and the light here in the marina has just turned yellow. That light right there. According to a little chart they had up at the marina office, the yellow light means that vessels 11 meters and above are good to navigate in the entrance. And yeah, we're 11.5 meters, so that means we get to go. You might be wondering, how severe is the fine if you go when the light is red? Well, the guy up at the marina mentioned that it would be roughly something like 2,400 euros for a boat at the Nazare, I think. That is a lot of money, enough money that you definitely don't want to leave when the light is red. There is a surprising amount of sideways current flowing in the marina in Figueira da Foz. We were getting pushed up against the finger with west wind on the other side of us. Anna and Stina gave us a hand getting out. As happens sometimes, it wasn't exactly a picture-perfect or effortless departure, but neither boat got any damage. West wind, Athena.
Athena, west wind.
What's your thought about those breaking waves out there?
I don't think if we head south it should be alright. I think they just updated the web page to 11 meters also, but yeah, you've been further out than me.
Okay, well, let's give it a shot. Everybody hold on for dear life. Coming out through the entrance was a little bit scary. It's a really nice day out here, but the breaking waves near the entrance, those were a little bit terrifying. So yeah, if you're going to be sailing the coast of Portugal, definitely pay attention to the lights. Last night we went out to dinner with our friends from West Sail, who are right here next to us, and they had taken their electric scooters to the northern part of Figueira da Foz, and they said it was really nice up there. So if you're going to be going to Figueira da Foz, I would recommend the northern part of town and that salt production area that Ava and I went to. Because we got a little bit of a late start today, the plan is to head to Nazare. I think that's about 35 miles from Figueira da Foz. And then tomorrow we'll do a longer 65-mile jump down to Lisbon. The entrance to Nazare is easy to navigate and apparently remains open almost all the time, unlike the entrance into Figueira da Foz. We had called ahead to the marina to make sure that there was room, so we got a nice warm reception by the marina staff helping us with our mooring lines. We only stayed a single night, but I would highly recommend stopping in Nazare. The marina is very affordable and the area has more to offer than Figueira da Foz. In our desire to get to Lisbon, we got up at first light and headed out to a completely flat sea state and an absolutely beautiful sunrise. It is a stunningly beautiful day out here. The sea is basically flat calm. The wind is supposed to pick up in a little bit, so maybe we can get up all the sails. That should give us a nice boost, which would be good because as it's looking right now, we'll be arriving in Lisbon or in Cascais just as it's getting dark. I don't mind going into Cascais while it's dark. I've been there before. It's a big marina, it's well lit, but the stupid fishing nets. I just don't like the idea of sailing this close to the coast with those fishing nets in the dark. So yeah, fingers crossed we can pick up a bit of speed. Speaking of fishing nets, they're the reason I'm so precariously perched up here on the cabin top. This gives me a great view of any upcoming little tiny, almost invisible markers. And with this remote here, I can alter the course on the autopilot from up here. So yeah, I can steer the boat from right here in my beanbag chair. Around noon, the wind picked up to 15 to 20 knots, and we were finally able to turn off the engine and maintain 7 to 8 knots, which is faster than Athena can maintain under engine. It is much later in the day, but we're making excellent progress. I think we have about 15 miles to go until we're in Cascais, which means we should get there at 5. And there is a much better marina, or what looks to be a much better marina, about 5 miles further inland. So if we get to Cascais at 5, I think we're going to give the better marina a call and see if they've got room. Of course, better is a bit of a loose term, but here we're talking price. Apparently Cascais is pretty expensive. The better marina is about half the price. We have about 6 miles to Cascais now, and Ava just got off the phone with the good marina, and turns out there's no room. So yeah, looks like it's Cascais for us. We arrived in Cascais shortly before sunset. After a short stop at the reception pontoon to get checked in and pay for the first night, we snaked our way through the marina and found our home for the next few days. We didn't quite stick the landing as we gently bumped the finger, but fortunately there was no visible marks left on the hull. After a well-deserved good night's sleep, we've gotten the boat turned around, so we're ready to install the wind vane. Inside of this heavy wooden crate here is said wind vane, and I'm going to start installing that tomorrow. But the wind vane is not the only project I'd like to check off the to-do list before we head towards the Canary Islands. In fact, we've got a pretty decent sized to-do list, so for a short time only, the Kanban/Scrum board is going back into action. Of course, there's the wind vane task. We've got the wind vane itself. I think all we need besides that are a couple of nuts and bolts that we can get up at the chandlery. Before we leave mainland Europe, I want to download charts for our Garmin chart plotters and the Navionics app on our smartphones for both Cape Verde and the Caribbean. We also have a somewhat annoying task here that's called sheets for head sail. We have brand new sheets, but unfortunately we have old annoying Luma winches that requires a 16mm thick sheet to be able to use the self-tailer, and the 16mm sheet is a little bit too thick for the claw grabby thingy on our whisker or spinnaker poles, and we're going to be needing those to pole out the head sails when we cross the Atlantic. So we need to come up with some kind of solution for that. As some of you guys might know, I'm not super good at dealing with heat. I get uncomfortably fairly quick, and I'm excited to announce that Dometic is sponsoring air conditioning for Athena. That's going to get shipped here to Lisbon. I'm not sure we'll have time to install it before we go to the Canaries, but at the very least we want to have that aboard the boat. While we were on our way to Lisbon, I noticed that we've got a little leak somewhere near the exhaust through hull for the engine. I think it's maybe just a muffler or water lock on there, but yeah, that's something I definitely have to look into. We're coming up on the oil change interval on our Volvo D240, so I think that makes a lot of sense to do before the Atlantic crossing. And then we have a task that is called companionway steps lock. Right now we have two barrel bolty nutty thingies that secure the companionway steps, and the unfortunate thing about that setup is that they actually rattle loose when we're underway. That is both annoying because they're noisy, but also a little bit dangerous because that means the steps can just come falling down when we go down below. Inside of our fiberglass Dodger there's a couple of electrical cables and an NMEA 2000 cable, and unfortunately they've kind of wiggled themselves loose a little bit, so they're poking out, so I also want to fix that. And about a year ago I bumped myself on a door for one of the lockers above my side of the V-berth, and I pulled it off of the hinges, and this finally came all the way loose the other day, so I also got to get that installed again.
We need to make a meal plan for when we are crossing the Atlantic, just so we know what to get for when we go to the grocery store. So if you guys have any favorite easy passage meals, let us know down below. After we come up with a meal plan, then I'm going to organize every single locker, cubby, nook and cranny in this boat. You would be surprised after a year how much stuff we have accumulated, or things just get moved around and don't put back where they belong. So I'm really excited to do some organizing. Once everything's nice and organized, then we can provision for long life groceries. We're going to try and get that done here while we're in Lisbon instead of on the Canaries. Then I have a little DIY project of my own of making a dish organizer for inside of this locker over here. Believe it or not, we're still using some tape to hold our dishes in place so they don't roll around. So that'll be a good one to get checked off the list. And last but certainly not least, this is going to be a couple's job. It is organizing all our emergency items. That's our ditch bag, bungholes for...
You're a bunghole.
Organize all of our emergency items. That means our ditch bag, bungs, all of our emergency items. That means ditch bag, bungs for the through holes. I don't know, it's the bungs. I can't say it straight, but the bungs and the medicine kit. This is not a laughing matter. The medicine kit and first aid kit, we just want to make sure we have everything handy and where we need it before we cross the Atlantic.
I think we're going to end up being here in Lisbon for at least 2 weeks. I think it's going to take a bit of time for Dometic to get that air conditioning stuff to us. So yeah, at least 2 weeks. But yeah, I hope you guys are ready for some DIY next week. Yep. And we hope to see all of you guys back here about Athena. As always, feel free to leave a comment down below. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
please remember to leave a like.
See you!